Good afternoon. I almost said good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Coffee Catch-Ups. We are almost, we're past hump day. It's Thursday. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's a weekend. If it's a week, it's lockdown, so we can't go anywhere in Auckland. But how are you, South Islanders, enjoying a bit of freedom? You Aussies, well, I'm sorry about the situation over there, and it is what it is, unless I guess you're over in Perth and living the dream. So I am very excited today about the guest that I have on. Once again, I get the opportunity to mix two of my massive passions, my passion for the business, my business Wealth Mentor, and what we do, and my other passion, which for many years was tennis. I've got a really inspirational guest on today, someone who has really made it, I believe, his mission to change the way that tennis is within New Zealand. Really puts a lot of passion and energy into everything he does within tennis. So it's with great pleasure that I welcome Seb. Are you there, Seb?
Hey, mate. How's it going?
Great. Thank you for joining me today. It's exciting to have you on.
Oh, looking forward to this.
Now, I do hear that you're a little bit of a celebrity, because when I was watching some Olympics a couple of weeks ago, an enjoyable run in the Olympics, might I add. I kept hearing your voice. How was that to jump in and do commentating on the Olympics?
Yeah, that was really enjoyable. Obviously, the fact that we were covering Marcus and Mike, who are, I guess, the best Kiwi tennis players we have at the moment, was really awesome. And I used to play with them, used to train with them, still see them when they're back in New Zealand. Just really exciting to follow that pathway and really see them excel at the world level in a sport that I guess the Olympics is not often looked upon in the tennis area. But it was just really fun, and couldn't be more stoked for them. And hopefully that'll bring some change to our current environment in New Zealand.
Well, I know that that's a big part for you, and we've known each other through the time. Like you were over in Europe and doing a few different things with your coaching, kind of when I gave up my coaching side of things and moved into the world of Wealth Mentor. So we kind of crossed paths for a little bit there. But can you give a little bit of a background as to who you are, what you're currently doing with your business and your tennis coaching?
Yeah, well, so I basically always grew up thinking about tennis as my life. First as a tennis player, took me to Australia when I was 9, 10, then went to France from 11 to pretty much 21 to when I pretty much stopped my tennis career. So I got a lot out of tennis as a player, got a lot of life experience, traveled the world, didn't necessarily have a normal educational upbringing, going through school, etc. But, being able to travel, seeing different cultures, meeting different people, really, I guess, shaped the way I see things today. And through the whole experience of being based in an academy in France for all those years, it really just pushed me to want to start something like that in New Zealand, where we're really lacking the environment where kids can all go together with one common purpose and push each other to the next stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So that got you to setting up your tennis academy. Tell us a little bit about where that's at and what that's been like.
Yeah, so we started the Lavie Tennis Academy in October 2019. It was originally just myself, Ricky McLaughlin, Chris Bent, a few other coaches that are reasonably well known in the tennis industry, and we just wanted to really create a small environment so that the best players could come base themselves out of, and then really train at a high performance level, but then travel overseas as well. And obviously, the last couple of years has been tricky on the traveling side. Yeah. But we've made the most of it, and in a pretty short period of time, we've been able to create a really good environment where everyone really shows up wanting to be the best. Everyone's at different stages, they're on different levels, but they really want to excel, either go to college, go pro, and make the most out of their tennis career. So it's really exciting. We've just expanded to a second tennis club, Pompelia Tennis Club in St. Mary's Bay, where we want to grow a junior base as well, get more kids involved. So even though our focus is the high performance aspect, there's a lot of different areas that we have to cover to make sure that we start producing some players.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of excites me as well, because I follow a few of the kids that I coached back, I gave up my coaching, I think it was about 4 years ago now. And a few of the kids that I was working with back in the day, like, Katie Oliver, or KO, you're working with her, Maddie Shearer, some of those kids, and seeing them training with you, and what you've managed achieve with them, and the environment you've created is exceptional. And I think a big part of that is something that we're big on within our community as well, with Wealth Mentor. So it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people. It's about creating a network. It's about creating the environment. You use that word a lot. The environment to excel as human beings and to create the right pathway. In terms of surrounding yourself with the right people, you mentioned Ricky. Ricky's a good friend of mine. He played Carabol in a team that I manage. He's a great man, and his brother's doing exceptional things as well out on tour. Surrounding yourself with key good coaches has been a big part of it, but the personnel around you, would you say that that's a big part of your academy and what you do?
100%, and I, for me, that is the number one component of what I feel like we're doing well at the moment. Before opening the academy, I was coaching privately. I had a few players, worked with a few players, and it was good, and I felt like I was making an impact. But at the end of the day, you can only impact 3 players max at a time if you're able to work with that many on a really high performance level. But having multiple coaches that all have the same passion, that all have the same drive. For a start, we bounce off each other, we push each other to be better, but also it just gives an added environment for those kids to come in. And if I have to travel with one, Chris will take the other. If Ricky's got to go overseas, there's that constant rotation, so that it means that we can really be super consistent with our players. And just having, for me personally, I probably wouldn't be doing tennis coaching if I didn't do it in a team. Just out of my my personality is, I like to be in a group. I don't like doing it solo. So for me personally, it's super important. But I think it just, when you come into the academy, it might take you a little bit of time to sort of feel comfortable in that environment. But, when people come, they stay and they thrive and they want more of it. And, it just, everyone pushes each other forward. So definitely key component for us is who we've got on board and making sure that everyone, I guess, fits that mindset.
Absolutely. We use the phrase, and I guess you could kind of relate it back to tennis as well, or your environment. Is your network is your net worth. Who those people hang around with is where you're going to go. You've also put a lot of effort into bringing some of those pros throughout New Zealand will come and train in the academy as well. And again, it's about bringing those people together to ensure that we can, create the best environment and get the best out of people. Now, one of the things I would like to talk about as well is you as a person. There must be, goals or drive that you have as an individual to try and achieve the best you can, because that sets a pathway for the players following behind. So you as, an individual, a coach, who are people that you aspire to, and what are some of the goals or things that you do on an everyday basis to become the best version of yourself?
Well, first up, I'm extremely competitive. I hate losing, and that could, that goes in anything. That goes in anything I do, and I might not always show it, but I do dislike it a lot.
I know you do show it. I've watched you. We've had a few battles with Cockaway. I've seen it.
Okay. You not many people have seen it, let's say. But I hate losing, and I think obviously, being a competitive athlete growing up, you have to be that way if you want to even be half decent. But for me, my biggest influence probably was Patrick Mouratoglou, who runs the Mouratoglou Tennis Academy. That's where I grew up. He currently coaches Serena Williams, Tsitsipas, Coco Gauff. So he's got a lot of people that he's taken to a very high level from a young age. Well, maybe not Serena from a young age, but the other players, from like developing players. I was lucky enough to live with him for 8 years when I was in France, as my family was back in New Zealand. It was a little bit too far to go home on the weekend, so I was living with him for all those years, and that opened my eyes to, I guess, the business side of tennis first of all, because he's very good at his business, runs the biggest academy in the world pretty much. So for me to have him almost as a father figure growing up was huge to what I'm doing today, and probably the main reason why I'm doing it today. And at this stage, able to develop and able to, I guess, not feel overwhelmed by a lot of things that could get you it could get you down. No matter what business you have, I'm sure there's tough times, but especially in tennis where there's nothing like this has been done in the last 20, 30 years. There's a lot of walls to break down. So just having him as a mentor is massive for me. I know the struggles he's gone through in a different country, different financial, it's very different, but every stage of the way it's been like, no, that's probably not going to work. And he's managed to break those walls down. So that drives me. And that just gives me the confidence of, seeing close up what someone can do in this business. So for me, that's 100% the biggest part of what I'm doing today, and my biggest mentor for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. And you mentioned the struggles of business. I mean, I understand completely. I mean, try running an events business in a world pandemic, where most of the time your events are through Australia and New Zealand. You have to pivot with business. You have to find new ways. In saying that, now we've completely moved to a digital element. We do the odd live event, but digital. This weekend, I'm even going to be hosting a summit from my living room because we're in level 4. I can't go to our office where we've got a full-on studio. So yeah, this Saturday, if you're free and you're not watching the US Open, jump on, have a look. I've got a summit running. I'm hosting it. I've got some really great speakers. It's all about building wealth. So I'll flick in the comments a little bit of a link to that one so you guys can check it out if anyone's interested. It should be a lot of fun and some cool knowledge no matter what your sort of concepts are on investing and wealth. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get back to you. Talking about pivoting during a time. Last lockdown, we saw pretty much everything go shut. And you decided, hey, I'm going to set up a tennis tournament in New Zealand for the best tennis players to ensure that we can keep doing it. And I love the concept. I know that we caught up and we discussed the concept. We had a bit of a phone discussion around it. And tell us about the going through that and why you ended up making that decision or going through that process.
Yeah, that was I guess probably one of the highlights of last year in terms of tennis in New Zealand for a big event. We created the Premier League. We basically created it, myself and a couple other, my partner back in the day, Rohan, and teamed up with Tennis New Zealand to get everything finalized. And it was pretty epic. Like, I didn't really know how things would turn out. We just started out with a conversation like, guys, do you want to play some matches when we get back out of this lockdown? And should we go and I'll take care of the courts, the balls, and I'll try and get a sponsor to put down a bit of money so that there's something to play for. And to an event that, I think over $260,000 went back into the New Zealand tennis environment through players, umpires, facilities. It was really awesome, and that was kind of just I guess it was a tough time, the lockdown for my business. It was tough. We were only open for barely 5 months, getting a bit of momentum, and that happened. But again, like, I guess if you know what you want to do, if you have the people around you that have the know-how and the drive to do it, anything's possible there. So yeah, it was a really cool tournament. It probably went a little bit longer than we would have wanted. We would have probably wanted to make it 2 weeks instead of 3. There would have been some tweaks there, but to set it up all in 3 weeks, and to get that much financial, I guess, benefit for the players who probably made more in those few weeks than they would make through the rest of the year for the the second tier New Zealand players. So it was awesome, and something I would love to try and replicate in the future. I don't see why not. It's just a matter of everyone putting their heads together, and at that time everyone had time on their hands to put their heads together. And that was really exciting. So I definitely think that's a model of tennis that could work really well in New Zealand. Team events where we had online betting, which there's part of it that people might say it's unethical, but for the players in New Zealand to be able to go out there, compete against each other, they get the benefit of that financially as well. It's really cool. It's something that is done all over the world except here as well.
It was epic, and I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of those players as well, so it was really cool to jump in and watch. There's a few from our Carabao team as well, and it was really well done. I'll take my hat off to you for putting that effort into that. And interesting times. You got to pivot. You got to find new ways to work around it. In terms of goal setting, obviously that's something that you'd probably work a lot with your athletes on, and probably personally as well. if you haven't caught the first episode of this Coffee Catch-Ups, I put out to everybody my lockdown goals. I set myself lockdown goals, and I shared it with everybody on this platform, and I had no choice but to keep going with it. Some of them said I'd exercise every day. Since giving up tennis coaching, I think I've exercised maybe 3 or 4 times. So it's been a hell of a journey, especially when lockdown gets extended. But I think I'm about 3 or 4 kgs down through lockdown. So you never know, mate. Could be rolling number 4 this season. If no, definitely not. But in terms of goal setting for your athletes or for yourself, what are some of the things you go through, and what are some of your big goals through your journey?
Yeah, I think this lockdown has been a little bit of a strange one. Just not really. It's just kept extending. I've set some goals, things. Well, I wouldn't say goals, but things that I wanted to get done before I get back out on court with the players, and we managed to do those pretty quickly. So things keep getting extended, and I guess I find it really difficult to. I don't really like sitting down for more than a few hours without trying to get something going. So we've got a few cool things that might be coming out in the next few weeks, hopefully. But in terms of the goal setting for the players, look, for me, the key is really consistency. I think everyone's got their end goal, and it's great to have a dream and a real target to focus to. But at the end of the day, like it's just the little details. It's just the consistency. It's making sure that you're showing up every day. At the moment, it's been 3-4 weeks we haven't been on court, but we've got 45 plus kids that show up every day on Zoom for their fitness from 3:30 to 4:15. They do their own thing in their own time. So for me, those are the little things that is just really exciting for me personally to see, is that those kids who are, between almost 8 to 13 years old, the majority of them, some a little bit on either side, have that commitment to just, every day, okay, I've got my fitness to do. So when I get back on court, I'm ready to go. And for me, those little things is really what will make the difference in the long run. The goal setting, everyone's got their tournament schedule. Everyone's got specific areas of their game that they have to work on. It's all done on a piece of paper. They know what it is. We know what it is. But at the end of the day, it's those little details that, when I'm not looking, when their parents are not looking, they go and do the work. Those results will show at some point, especially considering that they're pretty talented little athletes to start off with, the majority of them. So
yeah, absolutely. One of the things I love to discuss with the guests that have come on my Coffee Catch-Up is the concept of wealth. Now, my company is called Wealth Mentor, and a lot of the time wealth is associated with money. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change that concept, because I don't believe that's exactly what wealth is. I believe wealth is different to every single individual. They have their own purpose or their own concept of what wealth is. For me, wealth is the fact that I get to spend time with my kids. Wealth is the fact that I can sit on the sideline and watch the tennis coaches coach my daughter and not have to actually get out there and do it myself, because that time has passed. But wealth is about family for me, and time. For you as an individual, what does wealth actually mean to you, and what gives you the drive or the zest or the excitement, for you as an individual?
I think I'd probably be I'd be quite aligned with what you said there, Jono. I mean, for me, look, I don't have any kids. I've been with my partner for 3 years. Kids are not they're not knocking on the door now, but I'd love to have a family in the near future. And for me, one of my goals, and I don't know what that number is financially, I don't know what my day would look like, but what I would love to do is to be in a position where I can focus on my job, but also spend time with the people that I want to. So again, I don't even know if that means owning a house or renting an apartment. It doesn't really have that relevance. It's more about me feeling the freedom to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to work today for a few hours, and then I'm going to go spend the afternoon with my kid who's playing soccer or whatever it might be. And I think for me, that's the only thing that really drives me in the financial side of the business, is to get to that position where I do have that freedom. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I'd love to create stuff. I love to put in little innovations, something that I've seen a while ago. Can we do it better? And I think just having the resources, both financially and time, to be able to go down those pathways and try and create something new is something that I feel would make me feel very fulfilled in the long term. But I definitely see the family side of it for me is definitely key to life.
It's so I had Alex Hunt on the show about a week ago. He's someone, he even played the Premier League that you hosted. He's absolute legend. I mean, I think you mention his name and anyone gets a smile because of the energy and the personality that he is. But for him, wealth, when I asked him the same question, he's like, I just want to be traveling the world with a bunch of mates, playing tennis tournaments, just having a blast, and the freedom that, and that's for him as well. And that's what I love about the whole concept, that it really is so individual and means so many different things to so many different people. Seb, in terms of your purpose, everybody's got a purpose that they feel like they are out there to do. And you must have some elements that you feel is your purpose for your background, what you're looking to do. Give us a bit of insight into that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it started back when I was younger. I always felt like my purpose was to be a tennis player, and that was my goal. That was what I was doing every day. I don't know how many hours I've done that in my life, but for me, that was a real goal. And I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve in my own tennis career. I made the New Zealand national team. I played Davis Cup. I did some cool things. Played all the junior Grand Slams. It was awesome, but for the goals that I'd set, I feel like if I say, is it a success or a failure, I would tick it off as a failure in terms of the results. And that was obviously tough, stopping tennis and being like, okay, I failed. It's pretty raw. It's not black and white now, obviously, but at the time it was pretty raw. And I think for me, what I've always wanted to do is be involved in tennis and make a difference. And I think looking back at my experiences of failing, I can just see the areas where I feel like either I let myself down or maybe I didn't have the people around me that I needed at the time. And I feel my purpose is to not let people from New Zealand in the first instance go through those same mistakes as I did, and it starts from little things like I was overseas when I was very young by myself. I think it's very important to get overseas. You have to know the competition out there. But for, an 11 and 12-year-old to live by themselves for all those years, it's difficult. I'm not saying it makes the difference between becoming a player and not, but it definitely adds to the burnout that you could get down the line. So just something like that of, a Kiwi kid who wants to be at a super high level, that travel the world, they should have that option to be based in New Zealand, but be able to go overseas when they need, have their coach there and come back. And I think, I could take 100 things like that, but for me, those are the little differences that I feel make a big difference. And I'm pretty driven to make sure that doesn't happen, or it happens the least amount possible in the long run. And that starts with, putting kids in college. Matty Shearer, who you've also worked with, he went last week to college in the US on a scholarship, and that's awesome. And then we'll see what he does next in tennis. But to be able to support those kids from a young age to professional is really what I would love to do. And definitely New Zealand is a high on my priority list, just from how I feel as a Kiwi.
Yeah, and hopefully the amazing Olympic result that we did have with Marcus and Mike, that it hopefully drives a bit more funding towards the sport, and we can continually drive it. I'm still involved in a certain degree. I'm on the committee of Cockle Bay and look after the Carabao team. So we'll see you. I think we're second week in November. We play each other. So looking forward to catching up in person. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute treat to have you on. Is there any last words that you'd like to share with people, or where they could find you if they want to know more about you as an individual or your academy?
Yeah, I mean, look, I would just say anyone that loves their tennis, come and see us. We've got our 2 locations at Next Gen and at Pompelia, so you can check us out on our website, lavietennisacademy.com. But again, for me, like anyone that wants to do something in tennis, that's committed, that's passionate, it's never too late. You can always get something out of tennis, and anyone who has that mindset, I'd love to be around. So. That's pretty much all I have to say on that. But it was really great talking with you, Jono. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All the best.
So what I got out of this is there's still hope for me on my tennis. So good to hear. Awesome, mate. It's been great to have you. All the best, and we'll catch up soon. And again, for those of you guys that are interested, this Saturday I have got my summit. I'll if I can get the tech team just to throw that screen up. There you go, the Building Wealth Summit this Saturday. Be streamed from my living room. We'll be set up. Make sure you check that one out. Guys, once again, been an absolute treat. We will see you tomorrow, where I've got one of my students that I worked one-on-one with, an absolute legend of a man from Brisbane who has built an exceptionally awesome portfolio in a fairly short period of time. So make sure you check that one out tomorrow at the same time, same place. Have an awesome day, everybody. And most importantly, stay awesome. See ya.